Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump says two of America's biggest banks tried to shut him out, and he's not the only one. Now, the administration is taking aim at financial institutions accused of debanking conservatives. Plus, the president's response to the grand jury probe, Mari Otsu at the White House. Russia is approaching a Friday deadline to strike a peace deal with Ukraine. President Trump comments on possible consequences. Ariane Pozdar has the Russia update. And ahead of that deadline, European allies are sending about $1 billion worth of American equipment and weapons to Ukraine. Jack Bradley reports. Israel says they'll now allow some local residents to bring humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, reports say Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considering a full military takeover of the Gaza Strip. Jason Perry with the latest. A Texas House session fell short again today with just less than the necessary two-thirds members present. The Speaker of the House urged Democrats to return or face the consequences. Arlene Richards brings us the details.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. President Trump says he was targeted by the nation's largest banks as he's reportedly set to crack down on so-called debanking practices against conservatives. It comes as the Justice Department is ramping up investigations into the Russia probe. NTD's Mari Otsu has more from the White House.
I was loaded up with cash, and they told me, "I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out."
Criticizing banks for discriminating against conservatives, President Trump says J.P. Morgan and Bank of America previously rejected him as a customer.
I said, "You got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years.
It comes as the White House is reportedly planning an executive order to punish lenders for such unfair practices. The order, according to the Wall Street Journal, will have the Department of Justice investigate banks to see if they are limiting a group's opportunities for political reasons.
But they discriminate against many conservatives. You know, I told that story and sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative.
This is not the first time the allegations of debanking conservatives and crypto companies have surfaced. In March, the Trump Organization sued Capital One, accusing the bank of wrongfully terminating over 300 of its bank accounts after January 6. Banks, meanwhile, have largely denied closing accounts for political reasons. In other news, the president applauding the DOJ's move to tap a grand jury to probe whether Obama officials broke federal laws while handling 2016 election intelligence.
They deserve it. I was happy to hear it.
Last month, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified files that she said revealed a scheme to undermine Trump's 2016 election win.
There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated.
Meanwhile, President Trump weighing in on a potential successor for president.
Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. It's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
This comes after the president mentioned earlier today that he will likely not be running for a third term. Reporting from the White House, Mari Otsu, NTD News.
President Trump speaks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as Russia is facing an upcoming Friday deadline. Trump says energy prices could force Moscow to make peace. NTD's international correspondent Ariane Pozdar has the Russia update.
If energy goes down low enough, Putin's going to stop killing people. That'll be nice, even though they're his own people that are dying.
President Trump tells CNBC on Tuesday that lower energy prices could force Russia into making peace with Ukraine. According to the president, Russia is financing its war with the profit it makes from selling oil and gas. In the past, Trump repeatedly called on OPEC to lower the price of oil. On Tuesday, Trump warned he'd increase tariffs on India, which is partly because India keeps buying Russian oil.
Do you still plan to follow through on your threat to impose 100% tariffs on all countries that purchase Russian energy, including China?
Well, I never said a percentage, but we'll be doing quite a bit of that. We'll see what happens over the next fairly short period of time.
A journalist asked the State Department about reports saying India plans to continue buying Russian oil and that India is supplying Russia with drone parts.
When it comes to what Russia is doing and those nations that are facilitating this war on Ukraine, it will be up to President Trump about how to respond.
The Kremlin on Tuesday commented on Trump's warning of possible sanctions on India.
Now, we hear many statements that are in fact threats, attempts to force countries to cut trade relations with Russia. We do not consider such statements to be legal.
Also on Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he had a phone call with President Trump. Zelensky says, "We spoke about sanctions against Russia. Their economy continues to decline. That's exactly why Moscow is so sensitive to this prospect." Trump set a Friday deadline for Moscow to make peace with Ukraine. Otherwise, the US will increase economic pressure. The State Department was asked whether this would include sanctions on the Kremlin or only on its allies.
But when it comes to things that are decided, we would wait for the president to say that.
Meanwhile, Russia continues strengthening ties with nations that oppose US interests. Chinese and Russian navies completed a 3-day joint military drill. Beijing is one of Moscow's closest allies. And a North Korean delegation of prosecutors is on its way to visit Russia. That's according to North Korean state media on Tuesday. The outlet didn't elaborate on the purpose or schedule of the visit. North Korea has been directly supporting Russia in its war against Ukraine. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
European allies are buying $1 billion worth of U.S. weapons and equipment to send to Ukraine. The move was announced today ahead of high-level negotiations that will take place later this week in Russia between U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Moscow. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
Europe can ultimately defend itself long-term.
Multiple European countries are purchasing $1 billion of U.S. weapons for Ukraine. Denmark, Norway, and Sweden announcing they would buy $500 million of U.S. arms together. And then there's the Netherlands, which is purchasing another $500 million of U.S. weapons. And these include air defense systems, ammunition, and Patriot missiles, all for Ukraine. Now, State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce says that this move helps the U.S. defense industry, creates more jobs, and ensures the safety of Europe during this critical moment.
Together, these deliveries total over $1 billion of life-saving, top-of-the-line American equipment.
Now, you'll notice that President Trump has a different policy from the Biden-era model of directly sending U.S. weapon stockpiles to Ukraine. Instead, he's selling the arms to NATO allies who then supply Ukraine. Now, this comes as Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to be in Moscow on Wednesday for high-level talks. Trump has given Russian President Vladimir Putin until Friday to stop the war or face secondary sanctions on Russia's trading partners like China and India, which continue to buy Russian oil. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is creating a task force for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles.
I didn't think I'd be here for the games in this capacity, but it worked out that way.
Their role is ensuring the safety of and logistics for LA residents and the millions of expected visitors. The now passed Big Beautiful Bill allocates $1 billion for this regard in terms of security, planning, and other related costs for the Summer Olympics. The State Department playing a pivotal role in this task force, especially in terms of visa processing.
This action highlights America's enduring role as a global leader and premier destination for international engagement, tourism, and sports diplomacy.
Following the announcement, Casey Wasserman, the president of the LA Olympics, thanked President Trump for his support and leadership in preparing for these games. For NTD News, I'm Jack Bradley.
Israel continues to facilitate delivery of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, while at the same time waging war against the Hamas terrorist group. According to some reports, Israel is now considering a full military takeover of the Gaza Strip. NTD's Jason Perry has the update.
On Tuesday, residents in the Gaza Strip were seen swarming trucks attempting to deliver aid to the area. One resident who was able to get a box of aid said this.
You go under death, under the bullets, under the tanks, so you can live. So you think about surviving.
At the same time, Hamas terrorists have been hijacking trucks carrying the aid that residents desperately need. And in an effort to get more aid to the people of the Gaza Strip, Israel said that some local Gazan merchants have been approved to bring the aid into the territory. The merchants will then sell it using bank transfers only, which Israel says will be monitored. Meanwhile, multiple countries, including Germany, have been airdropping aid to the territory as well.
It's a great feeling. It's just a good feeling, because if we weren't there, nothing would be coming through at the moment. That's the best feeling.
Canada also joined the list of countries to recently airdrop aid into the Gaza Strip. This comes after Canada announced plans to recognize Palestine as a state. Israeli President Isaac Herzog was in Latvia, where he met with the country's president, who said that Latvia does not plan to recognize Palestine as a state. Herzog added this about the situation.
And if you ask an Israeli, an average Israeli, does he believe it's feasible to get to a two-state solution, a solution with a peaceful neighbor, like I crossed the border today from Lithuania to Latvia easily? The answer will be no, because following October 7th, it was a wake-up call for many Israelis.
And he added this about the hostages shown in recently released videos by Hamas and the Islamic Jihad.
He's in a life-risking situation. Him and Ron Breslavsky, which was also videoed by Hamas 3 days ago.
Breslavsky's father also spoke after seeing the video of his emaciated son.
You see your child dying before your eyes and you can't do anything. It drives you crazy. I always say that he'll hold on a little longer, that he has to be strong, a little longer.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he met with his security cabinet and discussed options for how to continue operations in the Gaza Strip. Local media outlets said that Israel is now considering a full military takeover of the Gaza Strip. Jason Perry, NTD News.
For the second day, Texas Republicans convened in an attempt to hold a legislative session to discuss House business, including a redrawn political map of U.S. House districts, which Democrats oppose. 100 House members need to be present to resume business. NTD's Arlene Richards has more.
There being 94 members present, a quorum is not present.
Speaker of the Texas House, Dustin Burrows, on Tuesday adjourned a legislative session after a little over 10 minutes. The House was short 6 members for the necessary quorum of 100. Quorum is the number of members required to present for the legislature to conduct business. Texas House Democrats left the state on Sunday in an effort to break quorum during the Texas legislature's special session, which began on July 21st. 2/3 of elected members must be present to get anything done. Republicans hold the majority, but at least 12 Democrats have to show up to make a quorum. Democrats fled to blue states to block Republican efforts to approve a redrawn political map, which could increase the number of Republican congressional districts in the state. About 40 Democrats went to Illinois. Texas House Minority Leader Gene Wu said Sunday that this is the right thing to do.
We did not make the decision to come here today. We did not make that decision lightly. But we come here today with absolute moral clarity that this is absolutely the right thing to do to protect the people of the state of Texas. Their attempts to disenfranchise Texans is the tool they're using is a racist, gerrymandered map. A map that seeks to use racial lines to divide hard-working communities.
On Tuesday, representatives said they are going to fight.
So we do ask you to join this fight because we're defending the rights of all Americans to value their vote and never be discouraged by way of a map drawn to say that your vote doesn't matter.
Our Constitution is under assault. Voting rights are being completely violated. Now is not the time for one party to play by the rules while the other party has completely ignored them.
The Texas House Speaker said on Tuesday that he'll try again for a quorum on Friday. The 94 members present on Tuesday were excused until Friday at 1 p.m. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton accuses the lawmakers who left the state of dereliction of duty and says he'll seek a court ruling to declare vacant the seat of any representative who's not back to work by Friday. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Could Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas actually lose their seats if they don't return by Friday? And with other states getting ideas, would Democrats or Republicans win a full-scale redistricting war? Hear from both sides tonight on Capitol Report's Civil Discourse panel. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. And coming up, a massive wildfire continues to tear through central California, burning tens of thousands of acres. Fire officials say the rugged terrain and limited access are making it even harder to contain. Christina Corona has the latest. 2 Chinese nationals are arrested after the DOJ said they illegally exported high-performance AI microchips to China. This is part of the Chinese Communist Party's quest for military dominance. That and more after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The Gifford fire continues to burn aggressively in central California, scorching over 82,000 acres in 5 days. Meanwhile, smoke from Canadian wildfires is triggering air quality alerts across the Midwest and Northeast. NTD's Christina Corona has more.
The Gifford fire, which broke out Friday in the Los Padres National Forest in California, has scorched over 82,000 acres and remains only 7% contained as of Tuesday. Officials say crews made progress on the western, northern, and eastern flanks Monday, but tough terrain remains a challenge.
As we move around to the northwest end of this fire, we're having some challenges out there. The terrain's extremely rugged. Access is a problem for us. It's about a 3-hour drive to gain access to the north and the northwest sides of this fire.
Evacuation orders are still in place in parts of Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties, with more than 870 structures at risk and at least 3 people injured. Meanwhile, 2 new wildfires, the Rosa Fire in Riverside County and the Gold Fire in San Bernardino County, have added to the strain on firefighting resources. Winds up to 20 miles per hour are expected Tuesday, and rising heat later this week could test containment lines. The National Weather Service warns that smoke from the Gifford fire poses a health risk, drifting into parts of southwest California. In the east, wildfire smoke from Canada is pushing across the U.S. border, triggering air quality advisories from Minnesota to New Hampshire and affecting millions of Americans. Some areas are seeing unhealthy air quality levels, especially dangerous for people with respiratory conditions. As of Tuesday morning, Canada was battling 748 active fires, 199 of which are out of control, according to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Tonight, local police around the country meet up with the communities they serve for a night of fun once a year. NTD correspondent Jason Blair is joining us live now from one in the nation's capital. Good evening, Jason. How is the night going so far?
Hey, Tiffany. Yeah, the night is going pretty good so far. People are here having a good time. The local community is able to get along and come out here with their local police and just, have a good time with some music and other activities. The official website calls this event a community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. So these are held all over the country in all 50 states. In all different kinds of cities, big cities, small cities that are going on. Usually every year they're held on the first Tuesday in August. So here's a couple of clips from a little bit earlier when things just got started.
This is about family, community, and law enforcement. This is about making sure that we are safe, that we work together, and that we respect each other.
Crime is coming down. And we could talk about crime rates, we could talk about community engagement, but tonight, I want you to emphasize and think about how special tonight is across the nation. Communities coming together with law enforcement, public servants, EMS professionals, fire, all to celebrate who we are as Americans.
It's so good to be out at National Night Out, see so many familiar faces, friends. I hope everybody is having a good, relaxing, it's a little bit cooler, and most importantly, safe summer.
So these are held all over the U.S., as I said. Usually larger cities will have these in different specific neighborhoods. So the local community can really meet the police that actually patrol their area and just, build up some good relationships and get to know the cops in their own area. Back to you.
All right, Jason, thanks for that update. More on arrests as the Justice Department focuses on exports of sensitive technology. The DOJ has charged 2 Chinese nationals with illegally shipping AI microchips to China. This comes after a California tech company pleads guilty to a similar charge. NTD's David Lamb reports.
The Department of Justice is cracking down on technology that's being smuggled out of the U.S. On Tuesday, DOJ announced the arrest of 2 Chinese nationals. The government accuses the 28-year-olds of exporting to China sensitive microchips used in AI applications. The suspects allegedly transferred tech worth tens of millions of dollars overseas from 2022 to 2025, including high-performance chips.
I think that's the most concerning thing is, figuring out, where all these leaks are and starting to patch things up. And that's going to be more on the enforcement side rather than the policy side.
Tech infrastructure designer Jared Navari says it comes down to culture and leadership. The State Department says the Chinese Communist Party has a strategy called military-civil fusion, which aims to turn its army into a, quote, world-class military by 2049. This includes increasing its research and development and acquiring cutting-edge technology through theft. Last week, San Jose-based Cadence Design Systems pleaded guilty to illegally selling semiconductor design technology to a Chinese military university on the U.S. export blacklist.
That information, the hardware and the software, really the information itself, that's critical for creating supercomputer chips, right? That do fuel and run AI, that run military defense systems, so on and so forth. So it's highly, highly valuable, and it's highly dangerous in the wrong hands.
The 2 Chinese nationals charged by DOJ face up to 20 years in prison. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Coming up, art inspired by Shen, the performing arts company approaching 2 decades bringing traditional tales to stages around the world, despite opposition from a brutal dictatorship. NTD has more when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. It's a story with the weight of legend. A once small performing arts company battling through hell and high water for nearly 2 decades, standing up to the world's largest dictatorship, all in the name of bringing light, beauty, and tradition to the global stage. Now, as Shen Performing Arts approaches its 20th anniversary, and as its 8 touring groups prepare for another season on the world stage, we take a look at the spirit of freedom and perseverance that drives them. Over the weekend, just a stone's throw from their New York home base, the new Middletown specialty store gave visitors a glimpse into that story through vivid scenes from the performances. NTD's Victoria White has more.
This is one of 16 art pieces inspired by Shen Performing Arts to celebrate the upcoming 20th anniversary of the company. It's a story of freedom, artistry and resilience. And we're here in New Middletown store in upstate New York. Let's take a look. A sweep of the room gives form to the promise of Shen and the art prints it inspired here tonight. To experience the timeless beauty of divine Chinese culture through art. Each piece carefully selected depicts an iconic moment on stage over the past 2 decades. Choreographed compositions that hark back to ancient Chinese history and seem to point the way forward to a more just, more loving world. Shen collections designer Fei Meng says she hopes these art pieces uplift and inspire.
We wanted people to be elevated, and we wanted this artwork, elevate and enrich people's personal space. And when people view these Shen-inspired artworks, they can immerse themselves into the world and the spirit of Shen. Lawmakers and locals alike said they were moved by the exhibit.
both the beauty of the works on display and the performances those works reflect.
It's absolutely beautiful. Not only do I appreciate the artwork, but the music. I have always loved and appreciated the music here so much. It just really plays true to my heart. But the artwork is exquisite, and I think that the fact that we can have this here in the city of Middletown and we can welcome everybody and embrace the culture, I think is really wonderful. We're very fortunate.
Oh, this is amazing. It's such a breath of fresh air here in Middletown to come and see high level of work in such a beautiful venue.
From Middletown to Milan and countless cities in between, Shenyun's spirit spans the globe, except in China, where the communist regime has never let the lights go on or the curtain rise on a Shenyun show. Kay Rubicek is the mum of 2 Shenyun artists.
Shenyun can't perform in China, no, not yet. But one day, I think all the performers really hope that it will, because that's the essence of Chinese culture in Shenyun. But right now, China is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. It's a regime that has taken over the nation, and when they're in control, they don't allow anything that is seen to threaten their legitimacy. And Shenyun shows China before communism, and that scares the Chinese Communist Party very much. They've gone to great lengths to try and stop it, but you see events like this and sold-out theatres throughout the world, and you know Shenyun's really having a big impact.
The communist regime targets faith groups from Christians to Uyghurs to Falun Gong. Also known as Falun Dafa, Falun Gong is a spiritual discipline rooted in ancient Chinese tradition. Its core values: truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. But in China, any faith not controlled by the state is outlawed. Across decades of evidence, torture, forced labor, even organ harvesting, all used to crush belief and tighten the regime's hold. Yet with faith and perseverance, resilience rises. In the face of pressure at home, Shenyun was conceived abroad. Falun Gong practitioners who escaped communist China set out to show the world both the shadows and the light hidden behind the red wall. They've faced persecution since day one.
It started really from the very first day Shenyun did their first show back in 2006. Chinese diplomats is one clear example. All around the world, in over 40 countries, Chinese diplomats, sometimes the ambassador, him or herself, would pressure the local theater, local mayor, don't have the show, don't put this on, there'll be economic repercussions, political repercussions. So that's one thing. And then there's just outright thuggery, vandalizing Shenyun's buses. Bomb threats have followed Shenyun in recent years all over the world. They had to evacuate the Kennedy Center this last tour. And so Beijing does, the Chinese Communist Party does a lot of different things to try and squeeze this company and make sure people don't see or hear their message.
And today, obviously, this is this art gallery. What is it like to see Shenyun depicted in these pieces of art today?
I think it's a victory in my mind. Here you have a company started by Falun Gong practitioners that the Chinese regime is trying to silence all over the world, and it's become, I'd say, the fastest growing performing arts company in American history, for sure. And it's something that's resonating all over the world. And I think a lot of these artworks are a testament to the fact that, no matter what the Chinese regime tries to do to this company, people are loving it. They love the message. They love the artistry. And so I think this is a testament to all that.
And obviously, Shenyun Performing Arts is reviving traditional Chinese culture, but I do feel it's an American story too. As an American, would you say that? How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, I think this rivals the story of Hewlett-Packard and all the great startups that we've had. Ford Motor Company, where Shenyun's story is a great American startup story. They literally started with volunteers up in the middle of the mountains, and had a building or two to work out, and they started with that. And they went through a time where a lot of performing arts companies are folding. They went through COVID. They went through all these things, and they're growing and growing and growing. 8-fold, in fact. They started with one company, then now have 8 companies. So that's, I think, a testament to what people like the Shenyun artists, who have their faith, who have their work ethic, combined with the freedom and liberty of America, what we can achieve together. Shenyun's the answer.
is a victory we share, the triumph of freedom, of hope, of faith. From frame to stage, the story endures. 20 years on, and it's still just the beginning.
The art gallery will be open until August 5th, and Shenyang Collections will be hosting more upcoming product launches and events in the run-up to Shenyang's 20th anniversary. Victoria White, NTD News, Middletown.
The prints will soon be available worldwide through Shenyang Creations online collection. Coming up in baseball, Aaron Judge is back in the lineup as the Yankees look to end their losing streak. Dave Martin joins us to discuss when we return. And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, plenty going on right now, but let's start in baseball as the New York Yankees will get all-star Aaron Judge back after being on the injured list with a flexor strain in his elbow. Will he play in the outfield tonight?
It appears he won't. He'll just be the designated hitter tonight. Now, I'm sure they're going to be as careful as possible about returning him back to the outfield. After all, it looks like throwing the ball was actually what aggravated this injury in the first place. Now, Judge has been out since July 25th. It was just a couple days prior to that, cameras caught him in the outfield after a throw, grimacing in pain, clenching his fist. Soon he was on the injured list and has not played since. Now, Judge's presence in the lineup will be a very welcome sight for a Yankees team that's fallen to third place now in the AL East. They've lost 4 straight games. This is a team that was just in first place a little over a month ago, but since June the 12th, they're just 18-28 overall. Judge, meanwhile, he has been the best hitter in baseball, bar none, this season. Leads the majors in batting, on-base percentage, slugging percentage. He's in top 5 in a number of other categories as well. Now, meanwhile, the player they traded for to help mitigate Judge's absence in the lineup as well as in the outfield, Austin Slater, was placed on the injured list today with a hamstring strain. So anyway, the Yankees will play the Texas Rangers tonight. Judge at designated hitter, not in the outfield. Just a recap for you, Tiff.
It seems like there's been a lot of injuries this year in all sorts of different sports.
There have been, you know. It's been unfortunate.
You should have a tally for that. That'll be the next list to have here. Looking at college sports, though, the NCAA has announced they will not be expanding the March Madness basketball tournaments for the upcoming season. It sounds like the issue is not over, though.
Yes. Dan Gavitt, the NCAA's senior vice president of basketball, made the announcement yesterday saying they won't expand for the season. But he also said, quote, however, the committees will continue conversations on whether to recommend to expanding to 72 or 76 teams in advance of the 2027 championships. So it seems kind of inevitable to me that they will eventually expand because they keep discussing it. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to be off the table. And as much as I'd like them to go back to 64 teams, that way all 64 teams would have to win 6 games instead of 4 of them would have to win 7 under the current thing. They've, of course, never actually taken back teams from this tournament. It's always just gone up over the years. To me, the more teams that qualify, it seems like the standard is watered down. I mean, this past year, the SEC, 14 out of the 16 SEC teams made the NCAA tournament. Now, if you look at college football, just 12 teams make the playoffs out of 133. That's 9%. NCAA basketball is 68 out of 355. That's 19%. That is double what college football has. So thanks for listening to my rant about this. It seems to happen every few weeks here. It is inevitable. I'm sure they are going to go up. I'm not against some teams having buys, but it really should be like the top seeds. It seems like the added 4 teams are just kind of randomly seated in there. It really does not make sense how they have it right now. I prefer them to go back to 64, of course. As I said right now, that does not seem like it's ever in the works, unless they actually call me up and to give my official word. But they have not at this point, Tiff. It's unfortunate.
So in your view, to recap, more isn't necessarily more.
Yes, more is worse in this case. Less is more in this case, all right? If you ask me, which unfortunately they're not.
Kind of go back to the elites club. Select few.
Very select. That's true. I don't understand why. I'm okay with them expanding a little bit in college football. We're at 12 out of 133. But this college basketball thing, we do not need any more teams in this. It loses exclusivity, if you ask me. All right, done for that rant. I won't rant again until next week on this, all right?
Start putting thought bubbles next to behind you over there on the wall. Moving to NFL news, though, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed free agent quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. What does he bring to the team?
Well, an experienced quarterback. They don't have that. They don't have too much of that right now because their starter is Baker Mayfield, who's missed the last few practices with a contusion in his right hand. His backup is a former second-round pick, Kyle Trask. Trask, he's played 3 years in the league, but he's yet to actually start a game, so not much experience there. Bridgewater, meanwhile, 32 years old. He's bounced around in the league since 2014. This will be his 7th different team. That's not even including when he signed with the Jets and they traded him to New Orleans ahead of the 2018 season. And interestingly, Tampa Bay's general manager, after they signed him, said that Bridgewater was their backup plan back in 2025 years ago in case Tom Brady did not sign with them. Of course, Brady did, played there for 3 years, led them to a Super Bowl win. That was Super Bowl 55, Tiff, beating the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a rough night for me. They won 31 tonight. It was actually very reminiscent of this past Super Bowl, you know, when the Chiefs got routed by the Eagles. That Super Bowl, it seemed like no matter what play the Chiefs did, Patrick Mahomes was on the run instantly, just like this past Super Bowl. Mahomes probably does not have a very good memory of the Super Bowl either, so just saying that's what happened today. I thought we'd go down memory lane for you there.
The bottom line there, Dave remembers.
I remember the tough times.
Looking at international sports, an Egyptian wrestler set a Guinness World Record on Friday for most cars pulled.
Yeah, look at the size of this guy, too. This is Ashraf Kabanga, a 44-year-old wrestler pulling 20 cars to set a Guinness World Record. Now, he said this was his 7th attempt doing it. In any case, he said the combined weight of these cars 27,000 kilograms. Now that's roughly 30 tons there. He pulled them 10 meters to set the record. This is on Friday over in Egypt. The previous record had been 15 cars. Now Kabanga said he knew about that record, though. He said those were lighter cars than the ones he is pulling here. Now this is not only Kabanga's 3rd world record from what I can tell. Previously, he set records, so you listen to this, Chip, heaviest train pulled by teeth, and this is going to be an interesting one. Most raw eggs cracked and eaten in 30 seconds with 11. So this guy is something else, like Rocky almost, that training there. I don't know about you, Tiff, but my teeth hurt if the wind just hits them wrong. I've never even tried pulling a locomotive with them. I'm gonna say I probably couldn't come close to this, but and I don't know about the eggs record. I think I'd be too grossed out to be able to do that one. I don't know about you. You ever tried that?
No, well, see, I'm surprised you're covering that, but not the World Dog Surfing Championships. You know, a lot of cute dogs on the wall behind you.
You know, somehow I feel like it's just more about the cuteness instead of one actually surfing, you know, breaking a surf record or something like that. See, that's kind of
paws up.
Yeah, see, exactly. More cuteness. It's not really about, well, he went 8 meters on the surfboard this time or something like that. That's my guess of how this would go if maybe you had covered that one or asked me to cover it. But it would have made for a cool video, you know. That Ashraf Kabanga guy, just looking at him, what do you weigh, 300 something pounds of muscle? That was entertaining just to see it.
Next time we'll have you cover the dinosaur race, you know, where everyone's wearing the dinosaur costumes and running.
Those are pretty funny because usually they end up hitting each other, falling down, or there's one guy that takes it very seriously and he's off the 100-meter dash doing that. Those are entertaining. Next time I come across one of those, you'll get to see that.
Well, Dave, as always, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Tiff.
And that's all for today's news. For on-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.